All right, we're having quite an international evening, perhaps for all the wrong reasons. So we're going to London now for a UK view on our falling rand, but also, of course, these accusations from the United States ambassador here that South Africa gave arms to Russia in December last year. That news is already making headlines in the UK and the USA. The presidency here, of course, saying, show us the evidence. Not denying, though, the accusation, merely saying it is being investigated. Well, I'm joined now by Julia Chapman, a correspondent in London. Julia, I'm not sure quite where to start because there's so much going on here, but let's start with our rand because it really has tumbled quite dramatically, in part because of these accusations against South Africa, but reaching at some point almost its lowest levels to the pound and to the US dollar. What is the word amongst the market watchers on exactly the reasons behind this plummet?
It has been a very difficult week for the rand. We've seen it suffering some pretty heavy losses against major international currencies since Tuesday, when there was that warning that a generating unit may struggle, may take quite some time to get back online, leading to concerns that load shedding is set to continue and could become more severe. That was what initially triggered this particular fall. As you say, we've seen the rand reach its lowest level in 3 years against the US dollar, doing very similarly against the pound. On the UK side, we have seen the pound strengthening against other currencies in recent weeks, although not necessarily quite as dramatically as the rand is falling. Back in October, when Liz Truss was Prime Minister of the UK, there were serious hits to the pound, to the stability of our currency. But certainly market watchers have seen them claw back some ground as a result of the new government, which market watchers seem to be appreciating more, sensing that there is now economic stability in the country. And at the same time as the difficulties in South Africa, that is impacting the exchange rate right now.
And let's move on now to what the US ambassador has accused South Africa of doing, basically loading up a Russian cargo ship with arms and sending it back to Russia. It's starting, I see, the story is now starting to filter through to international news websites. But has there been any response from within the United Kingdom? And I ask this because we know that the UK and the US are quite closely aligned on really defending Ukraine.
They are indeed, and they do share intelligence very closely when it comes to Ukraine, when it comes to Russia. The UK and the US very much aligned in this endeavour. There has not yet been any reaction from the UK government. They are likely waiting for more of a response from South Africa's government to see how this story develops before they make a judgment on what to say in a statement. But undoubtedly, if this does prove to be an accurate accusation by the United States ambassador, then this is something that would be viewed with disdain from London, a country that has been working very hard to support Ukraine in what it sees is its defence against Russian aggression. Just today, we've heard an announcement from the UK Defence Secretary that the UK will become the first country to send long-range cruise missiles to Ukraine with a range of up to 150 miles, which will be by far the most significant weapons provided to Ukraine by the West so far since the war began in that country in February last year. So the UK really stepping up more and more its response to the war in Ukraine, and at the same time putting quite a lot of sanctions pressure on Russia. Now, that is something that South Africa could potentially be vulnerable to if it is found to have been supplying Russia with weapons. That would be something of huge concern here in London, and undoubtedly a conversation that the UK would be having with South Africa, putting pressure on it to condemn the war in Ukraine, to do more to stop the partners in the Kremlin.
Yeah, getting to the rand, I suppose the falling rand might just mean that we are almost certainly in for another interest rate hike. Meanwhile, in the UK today, you've been slapped with another one. We were hoping to be at the end of our interest rate cycle, but earlier this week, our Reserve Bank governor sort of said, maybe not. Talk to us about what's been happening in the UK today. That must have been met with great consternation.
It was certainly among those trying to get on the housing ladder, those businesses who have been trying to take on more debt in order to get through a very difficult economic period at the moment. But the Bank of England announced a 12th consecutive rate rise. It is the longest period of rate rises since the 1980s. It's now at 4.5%, the base rate of interest in the UK. That is the highest level since the financial crisis in 2008, and the bank suggesting that this isn't the end either. There could be another rate rise on the horizon, but there was some division on the Monetary Policy Committee. 7 of the members voted in favour of this move, 2 against it, suggesting that the full effects of previous rate rises still haven't quite filtered through. But effectively what this comes down to is stubbornly high inflation. The rate of price rises in this country is at 10.1%. It simply hasn't fallen as quickly as many would have liked. And that has led to accusations that certain companies have been profiteering because prices rose very quickly. They haven't been falling as quickly, despite the fact that wholesale energy prices are in fact cheaper than they were a year ago. The head of the Bank of England today saying that because there were really big price rises in March last year, next month, once we're a year clear of that, we should start to see inflation ease off. And he had some more positive views of the UK economic picture, because previously the bank had forecast a long but shallow recession. Now it isn't expecting any kind of contraction in the UK this year, simply very low growth.
All right. Well, thank you so much for chatting to us this evening. That's Julia Chapman. She's our correspondent in London. Let's